Hey, what's up, everybody? Murder Metal Mayhem here, going live with my buddy, my good friend, Mr. A.R. Hayes, the Sultan of the Sin City over there, Mr. Trouble Follows. And there goes my camera. Camera problems.
It's been a minute since we've done this. Yeah, there goes your camera. It's already cutting you out right from the beginning.
Yeah, so I apologize. We're having problems
Been a
with
minute
this
since we've been
webcam.
able to do this.
Right. Yeah, it has been. So I apologize for you having to look at a camera or speaker because I didn't have an avatar ready because I've never had this happen to me before. So I'll just have to make it work. But we got A.R. Hayes here, and I'll try to see if I can get this thing right here at some point when AR's talking. I'll see if I can dip out and fix it. Anyway, good to see you guys here. What's that, dude?
I was going to say, I think everybody's begging for me to go behind the avatar.
Oh, God. Oh man, well you just bring the class to the performance, AR. So we'll have fun tonight because boy, these guys are all been going crazy, because everybody's talking some Idaho 4 here lately with all the news and stuff popping, and just really really cool to see with a case that had kind of gone cold. I mean, how many times did we talk about that, man?
Yeah, I mean, it was getting to the point to where, Pete, it was hard to discuss this case because there just wasn't much to talk about. And now here recently, we've had that flurry of documents come flying out. So now we've got a lot that we can dive into, a lot that we can share our opinions on, and should be fun. As long as I don't fall asleep, we should be good to go.
Yeah, hopefully you're not going to fall asleep. Hopefully I don't fall asleep. I mean, shit, I've been known to do such things. So I was in the Army with a guy who was so paranoid because during Desert Storm, if you got caught sleeping on guard duty, you were in a whole lot of trouble. And so this lieutenant was afraid of falling asleep. He was new. So he was drinking hot sauce out there in the field to stay awake at night. I'm like, man, I don't know about that. Just burning a hole in your stomach. It made me think of a hole burning in his stomach when he told me about that. But the MREs used to come with these little bottles of hot sauce, and he used to collect them from everybody if they didn't want it. He'd be drinking this shit. So anyway, it reminded me of that. But here we are live with you guys talking Idaho 4. So much going on. I mean, I know I've been doing videos, finally getting back into the swing. Hopefully you guys have been checking those out. Really, really interesting angles, some new things to talk about for sure. And then ARU are just really cranking the material out. Well, what have you been doing?
I'm trying to touch on it as much as I can and give a little bit of a level-headed, concept to the madness that's going on. I've really enjoyed having you back onto the platform. It's great to have you back. It's I always love listening to as many thoughts that I possibly can, and your creativity has opened my eyes. We've had some amazing conversations, Pete, even behind closed doors that people haven't been able to really enjoy. But let me tell you, we've dove into some great things and had some great conversations. That's for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, you and I talked almost every night when I was in the hospital for that first 7-week run, and then the other ones. I mean, through it all, you were always the guy I could give a call to. And then the fact that you're a couple hours behind me means I could call you late and it'd stand a better chance that you'd be still up. But even though you said I called you at 2 a.m. one time, so.
You know what though, it never bothers me, man. And our other good friend Lucky, it's the same thing with him. Him and I have been known to talk till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning on the phone about some crazy things and just some relationships we've been able to build. It's amazing. And a lot of people don't really maybe know exactly what I'm jumping into here in the next week, but I've got a scary little situation with my eyes that I'm diving into next week on Tuesday. The process starts. So hopefully I can stay with you, Pete, and stay with Lucky, and we can continue to do it even when I can't see the road. Maybe I can still at least feel it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, just like you, I would be there for you through all that, and you always got my ear. And the community here is pretty tight. We've got a pretty good group of people. I know the ones that follow this channel here, Mirror Metal Mayhem. I mean, you guys are fantastic. I mean, I just can't get over the fact that I kept as many subscribers and members even through all these months of virtually nothing on the channel, and then all of a sudden, kind of like the phoenix from the ashes, just coming back and with a vengeance, and be throwing down more new stuff. Tomorrow, I got one coming out about the 911 calls. We're going to talk about that tonight. Just so many things to talk about with that. We could easily spend the whole time. Usually we go, about 90 minutes or less. So I think we could do that. What do you think, AR, for a target?
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea, and to kind of jump on board with you. I think you've got some great work that you're about ready to put out, and I'm about ready to release some videos this evening on the defense's game plan, where they've actually conceded the fact that it's most likely Brian Koberger's DNA on that sheath, but they've really boxed in the prosecution with this IgG stuff. And I'll tell you what, if that IgG gets excluded, watch out for the firepower of getting the sheath itself excluded and the DNA not even being able to be spoken of at trial. And I was screaming that. I was screaming that very early, Pete. And people used to yell at us and think we were crazy when we said that this
Right,
prosecution wasn't being upfront. And here
right.
we are. We're seeing things come out, but now it's even leaking over into the YouTube world, where people are claiming that they're releasing that
Oh,
911
God.
call and how they've been able to hear it before
Jeez.
everybody else. And the FOIA requests have not been fulfilled, ladies and gentlemen. I know for a fact, because I've got one on the very table. Did I listen to what was a so-called 911 call that was provided to me? I did, and I wasn't impressed by it, meaning that it didn't sound legitimate to me. But we'll see.
Right.
We'll see.
Yeah. I know that through this whole case, there's been things like that have come out, pictures of, bodies and things like that. And, some of the stuff that people can do. I mean, it looks very legit. I mean, it's pretty hard to know. I mean, everybody's got a phone. I mean, for God's sakes, you got a movie studio in your hand. You could pull off something pretty easily and fool people. And that's not good at all. But we know people are shitty and want to do stuff like that. I don't get it. I don't get it. But it looks like here we're doing pretty good, up and around 100 in the live. So awesome to see a crowd here. AR, I know we talked about doing this because there were some things that you were doing in videos that I was really digging, and I was kind of riffing off of some of your stuff and coming up with some things of my own. So I really love when we can all do that. But we wanted to talk about, um, the 911 call, because this has just been a bone of contention. Now, the video I did here was on the text messages. So if there is anything you want to add to this as to the text messages, that's fine too. I just want to spend more time on the 911. So
And
what do you think?
I think yeah, no, that's a great idea. And I already have somebody mentioning the 911 call kind of directed at me about whether I feel as though it's an actual distraction from what's happening within the courtroom. And to answer that, I absolutely do feel it's that way. And I could be one of the first people, Pete, and you and I kind of talked about this like with the leak of this 911 actual call. I mean, we've seen the transcripts, and we know that's not everything within it, because if that's everything, there's some craziness to that.
Right.
But with the distraction now of this 911 call being released, I believe this is a real ploy that they're trying to get over the heads of so many people to get the thought process off the important thing, and that's the IgG and the DNA, which is going to be the fight and the battle that could win or lose this entire trial. It could win or lose the entire trial.
Oh yeah, I mean it's going to be huge. Anything that can get thrown out in a case as flimsy as this is going to be just devastating. But the way they did what they did was just so unbelievably shady, and they just keep stepping in it every way they go. It seems like they can't do anything that people give any credibility to. I mean, have you ever seen such a like Keystone Cops, or is this what they're trying to do to distract us from what's really going on? I mean, it makes you wonder.
Well, the crazy thing is, like I know that area. I've spoken before, Pete. When I was younger, I almost went to college there in Pullman. I was going to play golf for the Washington State Cougars until I decided to become a criminal, and I thought that was a better path in life, was being a criminal. I thought that was a good profession that paid well. Uh, but the law enforcement in that area has always been a little bit different, in my opinion, than other parts of the country that I've experienced. So, I think there's a real lack of training. I think there's a lack of experience, and it's showcasing itself within this very case. And I think that could be the unraveling of how this entire case against Brian Koberger comes apart.
Yeah, I mean, you could really see it unraveling on so many fronts. You know what I mean? If you got just one thing, and and likewise, we've talked about this, AR. I think just the other day. I mean, what if this takes a turn the other way? You know what I mean? What if all of a sudden somebody's really got the goods on Brian Koberger? I mean, you and I have both said, I mean, hey, we've got no skin in the game. I mean, whoever did this needs to be found guilty, and if not, then they need to be let go. And I'm not saying he did it. I'm just saying I don't know. And if they had something legit, if there's something legit, then I would definitely be changing my tune. But we're not seeing that, not at all. I mean, it just seems like they would want to do something to just shut us up, but they don't.
I think that's where my frustration, Pete, really comes. And like you said, we've discussed this a lot. I look at the judicial system, and I am a person that has learned from my mistakes. I'm a guy now, and I talk to my wife a lot about this, that needs to step up to the plate and take responsibility for the mistakes that I make, instead of either trying to be deceitful about it, hidden about it, lie about it, whatever that I've done in my past. Now I literally step up to the plate and I take responsibility. And when I look at a case like this, I want the right people, whether it be a single individual or a group of individuals, to be held accountable for the crime of the quadruple homicides. I mean, that's a very extreme, very violent crime, and we can't have those types of people just running loose because many other people's lives are in danger. But we also truly have to look at the justice system and understand that it needs to hold itself accountable as well. And right now, I think that's the biggest downfall and the biggest frustration, Pete, is we just don't see accountability on the prosecution side for them to step up and say, hey, look, we skirted the system by doing this IgG. This is what we based our entire case on. This is what we built our case on. Instead, they're willing to throw curveballs at the defense forcing them to fight to even get evidence, which we all know is the IGG. We all know that's the tip. So,
Right. Right.
just step up to the plate and just make that statement, and then let the judge make the determination at that time whether you did it correctly or you didn't.
Right. I wanted to point out here we had a cool milestone here. Victorine there over in Australia, I believe. If it's the Victorine that I know, she's been a member for 10 months. So thank you. And that's a member of the Horns High Club, just $2 a month, and getting ready to do some things for you guys. So I haven't forgotten about you. I'm going to do a weekly live for members only, just a short little Q&A session between us. And you can watch it on replay if you don't get to it in the live. And you can ask me questions or whatever, talk about stuff. So it's going to be really cool trying to make that better. But again, if you're wondering why you're looking at a thing representing a speaker or whatever, for me, I don't know what happened. Something with my webcam is off, and I don't know why, because I didn't turn it off. So just one of those things. So just want to make sure, in case you wondered and weren't here in the very beginning when I mentioned what that was all about. So, but yeah, thanks for being a member that long. That's super cool.
Victorine, she is awesome. Let me tell you. And there's our entire community. One of your moderators, Catherine S.
Oh yeah,
just an amazing individual that's been so supportive of not only my want to do better in life, but also the ability for me to be able to portray what I've endured in life, my experiences, and she's helped me with some confidence to really jump through that. But the entire community, what just how amazing can it possibly be, even for someone like yourself, Pete, that had to take a break for a while, and to know that you can come back to people like this that have your back 110%. They've done the very same for me and my family. So I couldn't feel any better, about the people that I've been able to be able to, I guess, become family with. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Yeah. Catherine S. is awesome. She just bought a couple of my books. She bought Deeper Than Dead, which is an illustrated novel, not a graphic novel, but a novel with some illustrations in it. And then the Murder Metal Mayhem adult activity book. It's pretty funny. Get to draw pictures, color pictures of serial killers and word jumbles with true crime cases and stuff. It's pretty wild, pretty silly, but it's something we did on the podcast a couple of years back. But I got those on the website. But yeah, it was cool that she ordered that, and so I'm hoping that she likes it, and I appreciate that stuff. So yeah, if you want to, buy a book or a T-shirt or whatever, that's great. It's anything that you could bring us in to help keep the machine, going. That's the main thing, right?
I believe so. And just so that everybody knows, I will be in Boise, Idaho, April 9th for the upcoming motion and eliminate hearings. I'm not missing it. The wife and I are 100% set on doing it. We know that Tuesday I'm getting eye injections in both eyes, and I know they're scheduling. I believe we're going left eye first, Pete, where we're going to do the laser surgery in the left, because the right eye is the worst of the two eyes. They're going to have to do numerous different procedures. So I'm trying to extend that one out past the 9th so that I can be there and do exactly what I've told everybody that I'm doing. I'm going to be going live from Boise, Idaho, in front of the courthouse.
Oh, that'd be great, AR. I'd love to get you doing a live on this channel for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. And one of the things, somebody reached out to me and they said, "Are you going to go shake Steve Gonzalez's hands in front of the courthouse?" Well, that, and that's one thing that I'll talk about. I don't have anything against the man. I know the man lost his daughter in a horrific manner. And look, he's been extremely generous in the love that he sent Jen and I through my health issues. But
Right.
the difference of this, and I'm going to just be straight with people that want to know the truth. I will be sitting behind Brian Koberger in the courtroom because I believe that's where my butt belongs. And my wife has asked me, how do you feel? Where do you think you're going to sit? Well, I'm not going to sit in the defendant's seat at the at the defendant's table, so I thought maybe I better sit behind
Right.
it.
That's
But
fun.
it should be a respectful thing, and Jen and I
It's
will
going to be
be
great.
spending a. We're going to get into Boise on the 7th. Is the plan. So we will spend some time in front of the courthouse. I will take a venture over to the Ada County Jail. So I'll do some live footage from the jail.
Nice.
And if I could get, there's a few
You
other
better make sure
people
you
that
don't
I
have a
know.
warrant or anything out there in Ada County.
No, that's a great thing. Let me tell you, Pete, I know where all my warrants are, and I just don't go near those areas. And I definitely don't have one in Ada County. So I keep my
That's-
eyes on the little places that I know that I have my warrants in. I just avoid those. So
yeah. And you should, do one of those like fiery sermons at that church, that crazy church there in Moscow. I can't remember what it is now with the preacher that's all out of his mind. It's like
at
a
Christchurch or whatever it
yeah,
is.
yeah. You need to get up there and do a sermon and get all fired up and get people to
I
go to your YouTube channel.
Jen is but one that loves to attend sermon or church. She's Christian, and she really does love her religious beliefs. I myself, she even personally tries to keep me away because she feels as though with some of the damage I've done within the Catholic Church, it's just best to avoid it all. So
Yeah,
you won't see me at the Christ Church up there with Doug Wilson. That's definitely for
Doug
sure. But
Wilson, that's his name. Yeah.
yeah, I definitely I do believe though. I think it will be very interesting, Pete, while I'm up there getting a feel and be able to bring that to everybody as we're around the courthouse. I'll be there before court starts, giving everybody kind of feeling of the courthouse. I'll definitely let people know who I see in and out of the courthouse and what kind of just the mentality and the emotional state of everybody is. But I'm looking forward to literally being able to see Judge Hippler myself, and bring the reality to people based upon my experiences, how I feel this judge is going to lay down the law in this case. Because I think I'll be able to get a much better sense, right there, being able to see him and the way he speaks and handles things. So that would be the what I can bring to the table compared to
Yeah.
what other people will bring. And just so everybody also knows, and Pete and I will be working together with this as well. I will be at the trial in Boise. I'll be making probably 3 separate. I'm not going to stay the entirety of the trial. I'm going to be there for the opening statements, for about a week, and then I'll come back in about the middle of the trial, and then I'll definitely be there when it comes into the verdict hearing. So just keep your eyes open because Pete and I have a lot in
Yeah.
front, and we're going to have a lot of exciting things for everybody. So.
No, that's fantastic, man. I love to hear about what you've got going on. So we have a lot of common people on our subscribers list. So that's what it's all about, man. Making them happy and giving them what they want, and I'm sure you'll do an amazing job. Now, one thing I wanted to get to you or ask you about, AR, because I don't think we talked about this, but I have some questions about the call or the text to Eric Gower, the private driver, That is incredibly suspicious to me. That guy has been on my radar since I heard about him. I've done multiple videos about him, caught some flack for it. I know Nika's Neuro Nugget. She did videos on it. And there were a few, but not many. But people kind of kept it with a 10-foot pole away from him. But it turned out that was true. And so, what do you think about that?
We're talking about the personal driver for Kaylee and
Right.
Maddie, correct? Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I do have to ask you, Pete, because I mean, I think you would be able to clue me in a little bit here. Is this a gentleman that lived literally near or within a close proximity of Brian Coburn?
No, but that's what he said when he called into one of the radio shows, allegedly,
Okay.
that it was a way of making it seem more credible, I guess, that he was so close to him. But no, he lived in Moscow, so at least 10 miles away from where Brian would have been, but certainly not not out of the realm of being able to get over there and do what he had to do. But didn't appear that he was living where he said it was 1,000 yards or whatever or 1,000 feet for him from his doorstep to Brian's, and his wife was creeped out by him and all this stuff. And I was watching some different content, and it appears that was all nonsense. So I think that was really him, but he was given some false info,
So that
allegedly.
that yeah, that right away, Pete, rubs me the wrong way because if you have to be deceitful
Right,
in the manner of just discussing where you lived,
right.
I mean that's a bad start to build some credibility in my book because I as I'm learning my better path and understanding what lies mean to other people in the kind of investigation of something like this, you were literally the last person that saw two of the victims and they were in your car. And somehow you have to be deceitful, um, putting yourself more into the case than you actually are. I mean, if you're not involved in the case, I would think that you would rather state, I'm not involved in the case, because this is a death penalty quadruple homicide type case. Why would you
Oh
even
yeah.
try to put 2 cents into the bucket um, when that could potentially just put you right in the middle? And it did. I mean, look at where we're at now. People are talking about here. Here we are, you and I, discussing what's his potential involvement when this guy could have just stayed out of it from the very beginning, but he brought his own self into it.
He
So
did. He did. I mean, just like Richard Allen did. But with Gower, I mean, there's just some really disturbing things. The Facebook posts he had of creeping on girls and like captioning the photos with like sneering remarks about girls that would have been like college age. And this guy was a college administrator there at the university. I mean, seriously. I mean that's just shitty. It's just poor behavior anyway. But for somebody that works with young kids and women, and that's just wrong. So I never cared for that whole thing anyway. But that's just the tip of the iceberg with this guy. But his wife works for the Moscow Police Department. So there you
right.
go. And he was claiming like he didn't know anything about this. Like he wouldn't have heard about that from his wife dealing with this front and center. And then he took a week off and a vacation from work right after it happened. So was he? People have speculated. Was he healing up? Was he? Whatever, distancing himself for a while to kind of get his shit together. I don't know, but it does. All these things line up. It makes you really wonder. What was that guy's deal? But the fact that she contacted him, at that time, right after 2 o'clock, the girls would have just been home, for like 10 or 15 minutes, unless they never came inside. I mean, I've heard that too. There was an outside situation. And if that were the case, then maybe she wouldn't have seen him. Who knows? I mean, there's just so many things. But the thing that his name gets brought up now again, and specifically called out, because there was some question whether it was the same guy who was like in his 60s and he had a wife that had passed, and some people said he gave rides to kids to avoid DUIs and this kind of thing. It wasn't that guy. They determined that it is the guy that I thought it was, and some others thought was the one that worked at the university there. It all jives. But wife is 9 months pregnant at home. Not a good look for a guy with a 9 month pregnant wife out at all hours of the night, taking women to home and everything else. So it just leaves a lot to be desired. That's all I got to say. But I just thought it was strange. Was it some kind of signal, for him to come back and help if he was involved in it? He had some really weird things on his Pinterest page, I heard too. The machete and all these different weapons. And I mean, this guy had some weird things that he was into, who knows?
Why do I feel, Pete, as we look more and more into many of the individuals around this case, it's not even just this guy, but I mean, you got Enon Harsh, you have some
Right.
very interesting people and mindsets that are all around us. Even if and I'm not saying anything to do with the frats, I don't know them, but I've done some research into the Baracoa and the other kid, Loach, and let me tell you, they didn't seem 100% normal either. I mean, they
No.
had things that they were saying that just didn't,
Oh, yeah.
ring normality. And look, Pete, I'm not a normal person either. I mean, good Lord, I probably got some of the craziest stuff that runs through my head from time to time, but this is a combination of so many people all located around a quadruple homicide. It's baffling to me. I mean, you're also, you got to think about Brent Kapaka's situation. You got to just, I mean, even
There's
the
so many side
officers,
stories.
even
So
the
many side.
officers to me going up to that back door for a noise complaint that wasn't actually called in, just to point out a speaker through the back sliding door before it actually turned into a noise complaint. That's the whole thing. Like I've talked with a lot of people that I grew up with. We used to throw house parties like you wouldn't believe and get noise complaints, but nobody showed up. The cops never showed up until we actually had the complaints. Like they weren't just meandering around giving us some warnings, taking
Right.
photos of our IDs to let us know, hey, by the way, if we have to come back out here again,
Right.
and I mean, it's like, wait, you haven't even been called yet. Why are you here in the first place? But that Eric Gower, I mean, why not just step up to the plate, say, yeah, I'm the one that, I gave him the ride. This is what I do. I help out the students at the university. I try to stay low key. I'm trying to provide for my pregnant wife. I'm trying to do the best I can to make some extra money, but instead he seems to be very awkward in telling stories. And that's not a good look. It's not a good look at all.
No. But yeah, I was just curious what you thought about him. So, all right, now here we're talking 911 call. This is, just the transcript of the 911 call is all I've seen. And it seemed very, very robotic to me. It seemed very, it just didn't seem like it fit what was going on. It seemed like the rest of this stuff, the PCA, everything they've put out has an air of fakeness to it. It feels like college kids in a writing course trying to make a crime sound legit and doing everything but, some really, really bad writers. But but yeah, I'm really blown away by it, and I don't know, you know, what else to say about it other than I'm just really blown away at the incompetence here. I mean, just every which way you go. But with this 911 call, we've been waiting. And I mean, any other case, you get the 911 call like right out of the box. I mean, I'm thinking about the Murdaugh trial. I mean, that was a really good one for me, was really interesting to me. I really followed it closely and was really fascinated by it all. So that's what I kind of expected, with the big high profile trial. But we're here in this one, it's the complete opposite. You don't get anything, so you wonder what's going on. And it just makes you here, I'm putting up somebody on the screen. I'm trying
I
to
wanted to say thank you real quick to Cheryl Burkey. She gifted 5 memberships to the channel, and
yeah.
she is like one of the most amazing people from Canada. We have become so close, not only on the YouTube streets but behind it. She worked so hard. I got so much respect for her, Pete. Like one day I'll have to just kind of lay it all out for you, but just an amazing person. But again, I want to thank everybody within the chat, both that are supporting Pete and myself. It means the world to both of us. I do want to comment real quick, Pete, in regards to the transcript compared to what I've heard that's been deemed to be this so-called 911 released call. And I want people to fully understand the FOIA requests that have been, and you just got 10 Murder Metal Mayhem memberships
Yeah.
gifted as well. That's amazing. Thank you so
Yeah. Thank
much.
you.
So the FOIA requests have not been fulfilled, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to tell you that right now. There are still people waiting for those. It has not been fulfilled. So there's no legitimate release of this 911 call. I can't state that the content creators that say they have it at this point don't truly have it, because I have a version of this that I've heard myself. So I do want to let people know from what I've heard. I don't agree with the assessment that others have stated about what they've heard. And Pete, you and I talked about this last night. I
Right.
don't agree with the fact that this showcases extreme fear. I don't at all agree that it's just a wild and chaotic and frightful and sad and crying. That's not what I got out of what I heard. Now, I sure hope what I heard, Pete, is false. I hope it's fake. Like, I just really hope it's fake.
Right.
And in my opinion, like I told you last night, I think it is. I really do think it is. But if it's not, it's not ultimately comparable to the transcript that we're reading, because there is more to it than what's in that transcript. That transcript is very basic, and I think that you and I both would agree there's no emotion within that transcript. There's no chaos, there's no fear, there's no
No.
Dylan can't believe. I mean, the way they make it sound is just like there's somebody upstairs passed out. Nobody got close enough to them to see that they're bleeding and loss of life. Um, it's very concerning, in my opinion, Pete, to look at that 911 transcript, because it seems as though to me, Dylan and Bethany were more wanting to tell the story of what happened at 4 a.m. more so than actually get help for the potential person that's laying on the ground. It doesn't make sense of why you
Right.
would call 911 without visually seeing the person. Like, they're making it seem as though they called 911 without visually seeing even the passed out person until in the 911 call. And from what I listened to, it's almost a joke. Like I said, if that's the real and true 911 call, it's sickening to me to think that there's just nothing in it. There's no emotion. There's
Right.
passing around a phone. There's breathing hard. I don't get it. I mean, I just don't get it. So
I
I don't
told
know.
you when I read that, it gave me the impression of like a family home at Thanksgiving, and brother Billy is away at college and he calls in to talk to the family, and the phone is passed around to the different family members. That's about as much feeling as I heard in this thing. I couldn't even imagine at any age I've been, but especially at that pretty vulnerable, these are young adults, most of them rich kids that have been sheltered their whole damn lives, that knew these people, some of them pretty well. And at that age, I mean, being around somebody for 2 or 3 years to you is like a lifetime. And
Mhm.
so it seems like forever. And so to imagine walking into seeing that, I can't imagine that there wasn't at least half the people passing this phone around that weren't themselves passing out or throwing up or having like an anxiety attack off the charts. And that just doesn't come through at all in anything I read in the transcript. And you said the actual call that, well, we don't know if it's the actual call, but what's
Right.
rumored to be the actual call was kind of the same way. There wasn't really any emotion.
And let me kind of answer this real quick too, because there's a Michelle Thompson that's talking about Dan with drum turkey. So first of all, I'm going to state this very clear here. I'm not saying this in any manner to disrespect that content creator at all. Um, I mean, I don't engage. I don't converse back and forth with him. He sent in a FOIA, and they, claim that he has it. That's completely untrue.
Yeah.
It has not been released via any FOIA. From the understanding of what was relayed to me, is it was released via a family that got it early, and they've released it to certain people. I don't know that to be true, but the very actual audio that's being claimed that people have heard, ladies and gentlemen, I've heard it. I've listened to it. I listened to it a couple of times. Pete, I think you and I were on the phone immediately when I was able to. I mean, I messaged you right away. I said, I've got
Right.
the 911. And I thought for sure it actually had been released to many. And then I realized um, there's it has not been released.
Well,
Lana,
look who
hey, my buddy.
look who just
Yeah,
showed up. I was waiting to bring him in, but I didn't want to interrupt you, AR. I saw him sitting there, and I'm like, I want to bring him in, but I had a little entry I was going to do that we had somebody malingering around the property, and I was trying to get him out and have you here. So
I was just hanging around in the back, you know.
damn, Lucky. Look at the surprise.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can't believe you figured out how to get up here without us knowing. That's obnoxious on your part.
I heard there was some people talking Idaho 4, so I thought I'd jump on here.
awesome, dude.
I'm
Awesome. How
telling
you
you,
been,
man.
man?
Great. Doing fantastic.
That's
I don't want
great,
to
dude.
interrupt your live, so keep going.
No,
No,
no problem. Well, Catherine S., you are awesome. We appreciate you so much. And you just gifted 5 Murder Metal Mayhem memberships. So 5 lucky people get some Murder Metal Mayhem membership and get some special treatment. My camera is goofy. I don't know what's going on. So I'm just rolling with a generic icon for myself. And then AR went to the icon because of me, maybe. I don't know. But then lucky, here you are. We see you. Oh, there he is.
I went to
So
the icon because I'm just ugly, and I knew. So I'm gonna let you in, Pete. I extended out to Lucky. Lucky and I've been talking quite a bit lately behind the scenes. He's been there for me, just like Pete, you have as well. So we've had some great conversations, but I wanted him to join us. This is the trio that we just have a great time every time we do this, and it's exciting to have you up here, Lucky. So I'm glad you were able to make it.
It's always a pleasure, man. Always. I love working with you guys.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, every time I see a new video from either of you, it's like, oh, cool. I'm gonna check this out, and I really love watching all the stuff you guys do, and that's why the three of us came in right around the same time, but just staggered a few months. So
Yeah.
I'm the last one. I'm almost at 10,000 subscribers. I got like 9,800. So
You're going to get there.
you guys listening or watching, you got to hit that like button. So do that before you forget. And then if you're watching in the replay crew, drop a comment below. That always helps get it out there to more people and spread the word. Like the podcast says, like a case of clap in the trailer court, but I don't use that. I don't use that kind of language here on the YouTube land, but in the podcast, it gets a little rough. But anyway, we have a T-shirt, I think, that says that on the back. So we were talking Idaho 4, and that 911 call, Lucky, just seems so fake. It doesn't. There's no realism at all to it. What do you think, man?
I agree. It's almost like the 911 call is a totally different crime than what we've been hearing about.
Right.
So it's strange.
Yeah, it's like they were playing Nerf basketball and Bobby got poked in the eye, as compared to 4 people got massacred. Like, brutal stuff. I mean, just like night and day beyond compare.
I agree. I've been saying, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and I've said, since this came out, that it just doesn't seem like there's any urgency at all, any urgency in that call, any urgency in those texts. It just doesn't make sense.
Right. No, there doesn't.
Well, what frustrates me, Lucky and Pete, is the fact we find out now Dylan and Bethany were in the downstairs bedroom. And where I start to kind of twist up my mindset, because like you both know, I talked to both of you last night regards to the actual 911 audio that I heard compared to what I've seen in the writing. And I relayed to both of you that my biggest instinct is nobody actually had been upstairs to see anything or anybody before 911 was called. And that bothers me. It's like, why did you call 911 if you haven't even been up the stairs yet? And then,
or so
I understand from my perspective, what I'm seeing is Dylan only went up that first level of stairs, didn't go all the way up. The person that would have found the actual scene was Hunter. And that's who you can hear clearly say, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. And like I said, I don't want people to think that I'm 100% sure I've listened to the perfect, this is the truth, because I don't know.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it still concerns me. How the hell do you dial 911 for an emergency when you don't even know what the emergency is to begin with? But then when you do start to figure out what the emergency is, let's say someone does finally go upstairs to see a piece of the devastation, how are you not screaming blood everywhere? This is a massacre. This is devastating. This is unreal.
Right.
Instead of saying, I don't know. I don't know. It's just really, really weird. Really
Well, and why
Well,
wait so long? Why wait so long to call 911 if you already know that something happened upstairs? I mean,
right.
if you're calling people over because you don't want to go upstairs because you know something horrible happened, why wait to call 911? Why not
Right.
call 911 when you knew that something bad was happening up there?
Well, see, I thought that too, and I think it was you, AR, was watching a video of yours, or maybe it was someone else. They all blur now, but where the the possibility that Dylan on her second floor bedroom actually left her room to go see what was going on after the coast was clear, and she found everything, walked through it all, and without realizing it made a mess in her own bedroom. And that's where the 8 hours is them all helping clean up, not just her, but the whole lot of them going through that crime scene. Because if all those people were there at 8 o'clock, I think that's what we've heard, 8:30, that's several hours. So that a 911 call where they sound just almost like kind of like beat, it would be from somebody that's been up all night trying to make this thing go away and having to get up in front of the cops now and sound believable. And so that maybe is why it sounds so robotic, is because these kids were, I mean, we've all been there. You party and it's already the next day and you're just
Yeah.
rolling through it. But now you're witnessing a quadruple homicide at that. And I think that would be, to me, very, very traumatic to anybody, especially, young people like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is what I think. And this is going to be in my next video. I'm probably going to give up my whole next video in this live. So, um, you know,
You
what
heard it
I
here
think is
first.
maybe that's why the front door was open, because maybe Dylan and Bethany, rather than go upstairs and walk across the second level, they walked out the front door and walked around the house to the sliding glass door. Maybe even maybe even climbed that ladder and looked through Xana's window.
Right.
But I think that's why, I think that's why we're hearing that this front door was open, because I don't think they wanted to go to the second level. So they may have just walked around the house.
It's very possible, dude. I mean, seriously. I just don't know how this place wouldn't have been a bloodbath. And that's why I think that it makes even less sense that there's no evidence of any of this outside. I mean, I just don't see how somebody was that good at covering up, because I mean, think about it. If it wasn't for a speck on a button, uh, this thing would be an unsolved case, and probably always would be. And that's why that speck on that button deserves so much scrutiny, because boy, that's a whole lot of, putting somebody away for their whole life, or maybe in front of a firing squad. And if
Right.
this is just BS, because they're trying to frame this guy, that's horrible. I mean, that's the worst. I couldn't imagine it.
I
What do
agree.
you, what do you think?
If you don't mind, just real quick, let me,
Yeah,
Michelle
dude.
P. Thompson, Jen and I would love to be able to meet up with you and your husband while we're up there. If you can email me at convictsthoughts@gmail.com. I don't know if anybody could post that. I can't see your type, but please email me. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm definitely one that now has become more comfortable, even though I'm not real mingly socially. I'll definitely shake hands and meet people and discuss things. And I definitely always try to engage and show people the willingness to help others, better their lives and move forward. And that's one reason why I really enjoy the team that you see here on panel. We all support each other with our drives to really support and help others. And we're always going to be ones that will do that. So definitely, yeah, email me out. And Lucky, you make a great point. Could they use the front door to walk around? Of course they could. Where I want to see, I want to know, what did Dylan and her father talk about at 10:30 in the morning before that 911 call was made? Because I want to know if good old daddy there that's got a little bit of a background, let me tell you, this man, he's probably not cop calling friendly, can give some advice to a young lady that potentially, there's no doubt in my mind, Pete, there's no doubt in my mind that Dylan in and out of her bedroom walked through blood in that house. There is no doubt in my mind. Like, you can see the layout of the house.
Well, how did she go to the bathroom? The bathroom was by Xana's bedroom.
Well, it's not even
Downstairs.
that. Look at
What
where
do you
those
do when you go out
stairs.
drinking all night? You go peeing like nonstop. So how'd she go all night and all that next morning without going to the bathroom? Is she going with Depends, or what is she doing? You know?
Or the
I don't-
bathroom on the first level.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, the perpetrator would have been coming down those stairs. It doesn't matter if the second floor was first or the third floor was first. Those stairs with the walkway in and out of that kitchen to and from Xanda's room, either way is covered in blood. Either way, it doesn't matter where you committed the crime first. What matters is that's where Dylan would have had to have exited her room numerous times. Evidently, she came out of that room to call upstairs, yell at people for being too loud. You know, that's the normality of life now, Lucky you, Pete. You know, when a gruesome quadruple homicide's going on, you could hear every bang in the house. You just come out and yell for people to shut the F up instead of actually, you know, maybe calling for help. I mean, that's what I
Right.
want to teach my kids to do in life, is just yell at people, tell them to shut the F up while they're getting stabbed to death. That's amazing. But I could also understand, and if you really kind of put the thought into it, if you know that you've just tracked blood from a gruesome crime scene into your bedroom and you're a survivor, you're going to get looked at. Like me, I know for a fact they would be investigating me if I was the one that survived in this home. I would be the first one that became a suspect.
You would have been
Any
in
one of
handcuffs
us.
when they got. You would have been in handcuffs when they got there.
Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. And
Any one of us,
Right.
any male, and that's it. Even me with one leg, I'd have been in the bright lights, getting whipped with a hose, you know, to tell them what I knew.
Right.
I mean, we'd all be much more scrutinized than these two. That's for damn sure. I mean, imagine, you know, go a step further. You know, a person of color in that environment. I mean, that probably wouldn't be the best situation either. So, I mean, anybody is really, other than those two blonde girls, going to be put under a massive amount of legitimate amount of scrutiny, because you're the only two people that are left alive in a house where that just happened. It's very, very sketchy at best. You know, that's what I
Yeah.
think.
Well, I mean, and you have to figure Bethany and Dylan have kind of had the opportunity just to call the shots on their own. I mean, Bethany
Right.
moved back to, I guess, Las Vegas, and then said, "Well, I'm not coming back."
Right.
Even when they asked her to come back, she wasn't interested. You know, and I thought that was kind of strange that
Yeah, how
they
do you
that
prove
they
that?
asked her nicely to come back.
Right. Legally, how does that work, AR? I mean, in a normal situation, would they just let you leave the state, or can they make you not leave
well,
the boundaries of the state?
so I'll tell you, my experience is they would be rushing me back in handcuffs in the back of a car with like 9 people escorting me back. They would never, but you know, from what I've seen that they've done with these two girls, I think that there's money involved in this. I think both of them have had attorneys and they've had people that have shut this down immediately, you know, stating, if you really F with our kids, we've got the lawyers and the people to protect this. See, and that's where a lot of this goes screaming is, not everybody in the world has that protection immediately, and I think that's what the 10:30 in the morning phone call from Dylan is opening that door to get that protection. Like, hey, I think I'm going to have some problems.
Yep.
This is going to turn bad. And I think Bethany, if we haven't heard a lot about Bethany's phone yet, because I think Bethany's family even has more prominent lawyers involved in it, and even some people I think within, if not law enforcement, I think they're involved in some sort of something up there, whether it be coroners or whatever they are. Um, they've really buried Bethany. Like, they've really buried anything that Bethany could say or think or do. And it would be very interesting to know, who did Bethany call at 10:30 in the morning? Because if Dylan's calling daddy, they're in the same room. They're in
Right.
the same room.
Well,
Who
it,
did
it
Bethany
also
call?
it makes me wonder if, they decided to use Dylan as a distraction, because they hung her out to dry.
Oh yeah,
And I
very
feel like maybe
possible.
they used her as a distraction to kind of keep the attention out of, away from other people.
Oh yeah, I think they're doing some sleight of hand quite a few times. Like the whole Jack, what's his name, the rich one that went they claim went to Africa and all that stuff.
Oh,
Jackass.
Jackass.
Bill
Yeah.
Walter,
Yeah,
yeah.
that guy was also very very mysterious. And what was his deal? And he lived right next door, and he had same type of K bar, and he all these things that are so similar, but yet somehow that guy just vanishes. Like, how does that happen? Well, when your family's all lawyered up, I mean, that's what we've been saying here is, you got all this money, and it's just such a sad thing to have in our country, because I think that that's awful, because a person of modest means like Brian Koberger, doesn't have that kind of, financial backing where he can have, the best of the best. Because I guarantee you, if he had different attorneys, this could be a whole different ballgame. I don't think Ann's bad, but there's a reason why she's still in Boise, Idaho. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've always felt like I've always said the same thing. If he had a high-powered attorney that didn't know anybody in that courtroom, I think things would have gone a lot differently. I think
Oh, yeah.
I think Ann Taylor's doing a good job, but I think that she knows all those people.
Right.
If he would have brought in an attorney that didn't know those people and didn't care about those people, I
Right.
think that things would have gone differently.
Oh, I
Well,
guarantee. What do you
I'll
think?
tell you right off, no doubt about it. Money lawyers, man, it's so much different when you've got money and you've got real attorneys. I was being charged actually in New Mexico, Lucky, with just a stupidly horrific crime that, it was like, if I didn't have the money at that time that I had to get the lawyers that I was able to get, and I had to get a team of them. It wasn't even go hire this one specific attorney out of Albuquerque. I literally had to go get one out of Albuquerque, one out of Las Cruces, one out of the prominent areas, because this was like a statewide crime. If I didn't have that ability, I was screwed. If I had to take someone that came from the state, um, a public defender that worked right alongside not only the prosecutors, but also the judges on a daily basis. Like, they all know each other by first name. They walk into the court and they
Right.
got all their files right in front of them. They talk about 10 cases in 5 minutes, trying to make a plea bargain real fast in the courtroom, where a high profile lawyer that's there for money, they come in, they get you out on bail, where
Yeah.
a public defender doesn't care about bail. A private attorney will come in and try to get you bail. Um, they're going to shut down any type of craziness that we've seen in the Brian Koberger case with, the stalking and all the things that have been spoken about him. They would shut that down immediately. Ann Taylor did nothing to shut
Right.
down the sabotage that was happening through mainstream media and social media. Where Look at Luigi Mangione right now with his attorneys, not only in New York City, but also in Pennsylvania. And these are paid for good lawyers. His lawyer in New York is bringing the heat to New York City and its mayor, saying, we're not going to do this in the dark. We're doing everything in the light. I'm going to build a website and I'm bringing everything out.
Yep.
You don't see
Yeah,
that.
that guy has
Brian
got some
Koberman's
seriously good lawyers.
And he might get off of that.
He might.
He's potentially gonna beat that based upon the infractions of his rights. So if we look at that same scenario, if we brought in that same group of lawyers that are representing him, let's say Brian Koberger, first of all, got the same Pennsylvania lawyer to protect his rights in Pennsylvania during the arrest, but then also got the high profile in the state of Idaho that he was being brought back. A lot of what we're seeing happening would not be happening, and it wouldn't take 3 years to get to the transparent point that we're finally getting to now. Guys, we were told lies from minute one in this case. People were sleeping. The roommates were sleeping. They were this, and everything is coming back as false.
Right.
It's not true. And a high profile lawyer would never let that happen. Never.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
that's definitely a conversation that could be a whole live just on that whole thing, because there's so many cases you could talk about where that's been just abused, and it's unfortunate, but it's not a perfect situation, but it's the closest to that we have available. And here in the U.S., this is what we got to deal with. So I'm always amazed at the ones like Harsh and that ones from out of the country, what they think of our laws, because some of them are kind of goofy, just like some of theirs are.
Right.
It's funny how that is. But yeah, these 911 calls just seem very fake to me, and I'm wondering, what are they covering up? I mean, Lucky, what would you say if these aren't real? Like the three of us seem like we're pretty, much in line and agreeing. Then why? I mean, why would you go through that? Why would you go through the cover up of cover ups? If this thing got blown open, my gosh, it'd be just unbelievable. But
there's always that thought, in the back of my mind. And I think that, I think I was telling AR last night, for the 911 callers to not mention, the knife attack, and not mention all the blood, and not mention the whole, horrible crime scene. That to me is strange. And one of the things that makes it even more strange is that, in the PCA, or the exhibit to the PCA, Brett Payne, he stated that as soon as he walked in the room, upon, a visual inspection, he could see that Xana had been attacked with a knife.
Right.
So why couldn't these people see that? How did 4 people miss that? It just doesn't make sense. Right.
That's why I think, I'm starting to even wonder. I had mentioned this to AR, I think it might have been today, or yesterday. What if the method of their murder wasn't even what we've been led to believe? I mean, what if the 4 of them were drugged and overdosed, and they stacked them up in the bedrooms and basically told them, okay, you figure out how this thing went down, because we're out, and
Right.
They just left them there. And these, I don't know how you go from, it's like Charles Manson Tate murders bloody, according to that coroner Mabbitt, and then what we're talking about with the 911 calls and the text message stuff, not one mention of blood or any bodily fluids at all, which we all know would have permeated that house, especially hours later, which is probably why the door was open, would be my guess. Trying to get some air in there. I bet that slider was open too. trying to really air that place out. But I mean, if you've ever been around a lot of blood, like at a slaughterhouse or anything like that, it's got a distinctive smell.
Very.
And so, yeah, so that would have been detectable. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. You know, if you've ever worked in an office building, you could have the most faintest odor that's not even detectable, but you're going to have 4 people complain they got a headache because of some weird smell, and you're clearing offices out and everything. And people are very sensitive to that stuff. So the fact that to think that these kids were in this house where all that carnage supposedly took place, that's why I wonder, what do you think, AR? I mean, is it possible that they could have just, this cover up could be even more crazy than we thought?
Well, I'm going to utilize Catherine S's comment in how I can kind of answer how I feel about that. You have to remember, not only was the Gonzalez family told that Kaylee had been shot,
Right,
not stabbed,
shot.
She had been shot at a party.
Right.
So the confusion started immediately. But then you also have to ask yourself, your child's been shot. You didn't leave the house to go see what the hell's going on. And then you find out even later that it was not even shooting, it was stabbing. And then you still didn't leave the house. But, you know, the smell of what this home had to smell like with 4 people for 8 hours, bodily fluids. We're not talking about just blood here. This is bodily fluids.
Right.
And it's disgusting. I've been around one single body that was, you know, I still remember in the penitentiary, I'm locked in a cell, and in the hallway, I think I've told this story before, someone had OD'd on, you know, heroin, and they were laid out in the hallway of the run, covered with a tarp. You could smell that through the entire building. So it concerns me. What do you call it? 911 for a passed out individual when that house had to smell disgustingly bad. Disgustingly bad.
Well, why are you calling for? I mean, why are you calling for a passed out individual anyway? You just heard you just heard all these sounds that scared you and freaked you out. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Why are you calling for someone who's passed out when you know that something happened in that house that night? You heard all of it. So why are you even calling for someone who's passed out?
Even the way the 911 call starts, it's something like, so there's this thing that happened at our house or something like that, that like, there's this thing. I mean, the way they describe it is just so void of any kind of fear.
It sounds like 4 or 5-year-olds. It sounds like 4 or 5-year-olds making that phone call. It doesn't sound like 4 college students. It sounds like 4 or 5-year-olds that are describing a totally different scene than what we've heard about.
Right. And I'm just wondering, like, how do you put out these documents and don't think people are going to question this? AR, what do you think, buddy?
Yeah, I was always a firm believer everything stayed contained within the home, including Dylan and Bethany. Like, I believed Dylan stayed in her room. I believe Bethany was downstairs. So, you know, I always combated when people told me, oh, no, you know, they left the house. Bethany and Dylan couldn't have possibly been in the house. And I'm starting to think to myself, at 4:30 in the morning, you're claiming to be scared out of your mind. You just saw, a perpetrator wearing a ski mask, carrying vacuum cleaners, cleaning your house for you at 4:30 in the morning. I know that would scare the living daylights out of me. You do not clean my house at 4:30 in the morning. You just don't do it.
Right.
So, of course, I would have ran out of the house, scared as all hell, shaking my booty down the street, but somehow these girls just went downstairs and the fear went away. the fear went away till 10:30 in the morning, to where then again it seems like the fear started again. So you're telling me it lapses, the phone calls to the roommates, the phone calls to everybody in the house, it all stops. But for some reason it picks back up at 10:30 in the morning.
After
That
she
just
calls her dad.
right.
So
And
so
that just
that's why
seems
I think he was somehow maybe a player in this, whether it be helping up on the cleanup crew, or I mean her boyfriend was a piece of crap. You know, her
Yeah.
dad had some issues. You know, like there's just a lot of nefarious people in the mix here. But and then she would have been buddies with probably Emma and Demetrius, who were part of that whole pharmaceutical business down there. And so there is a whole host of people who could have been involved here, but it's her dad. So that's why I wonder if it was the kind of call of, we're good here. We've cleaned up, just like you told me. And now what do we do? Okay,
Right.
go ahead and call 911. And then that's what they did. Or wait till noon and call 911
Right.
because it was just a few minutes before noon. What were you going to say, Lucky?
I was going to say, how did they not find Ethan at the exact same time that they found Xana?
Right.
That's what I don't understand. I mean, we know that Xana was in the bedroom on the floor because that's what Brett Payne stated in the PCA. And we know that, so how did they not see Ethan at exactly the same time they saw Xana? That bedroom was the size of a walk-in closet. There's no way they did not see both of them at the same time. But it sounds like they found them at two different times.
As it was explained to me, Lucky, and where I heard this or saw this, I couldn't tell you, but Ethan was found with his back to the door, to the inside of the door, like a doorstop, basically.
Yeah.
And that's where he expired. And that's why they couldn't get that door open. And that's why Hunter and his big stud self came over and got the door open. And then, even then, though, if he just pushed him forward, unless he fell to the left side, you probably still wouldn't have seen him. You'd probably have seen her first. But
yeah,
like
but you
said,
would. I mean, if you're pushing the door and you're seeing Xana on the floor, you would obviously know that she wasn't the one that was in front of the door that you were pushing.
Sure.
It just doesn't make sense to me how they didn't find them both at the same time.
Yeah, that is really strange.
That's where my confusion would be, is you're making this effort, pushing doors and who you're going to see first, and you're talking about passed out. I mean, that bedroom, having to push that door open would mean nothing to the concept of passed out. I'll tell you that.
Right.
But on top of that, no possible way, none, you don't see the trail of blood from Xana's room out the back door or up the stairs. You don't miss it.
Right.
You can't. You cannot. It's a hardwood floor or laminate or whatever it is. It's new.
Would have been slippery in there.
You would have stepped
and loud, really loud.
I'm just saying, like, and reading the transcripts of the 911 call, and anybody can tell me, well, they kept pertinent parts of that out. They did this, they did that, and I call bullshit.
I agree.
I straight call bullshit, because that makes no sense. Absolutely none.
Well, we know that. I mean, even if there were parts of that call that are missing, we know that they didn't mention anything to this dispatcher about Xana being attacked, because they didn't even realize it was a homicide until law enforcement got there. Law enforcement is the one who told the dispatcher that he thought they had a homicide. So, like, even if there are parts of that call missing, at no time did they tell the dispatcher that Xana looked like she'd been attacked by a knife.
And even that, you just said the cop said he told the dispatcher, I think we have a homicide. I mean, you think?
Right.
Right. I've been reading, I'm doing a long form video on comparing the media coverage of the Manson murders and the coverage of the Idaho 4. And what I'm finding interesting is that the earliest stuff coming out in the newspapers, like the next day out there in LA, were just nonstop with the blood and the messages and all this stuff. So it just seems very strange that like that's what's in our heads, is that's how this would have gone down. But what if that's just what they said to divert from something much stranger went on? Then I mean, not that the way it happened wasn't strange and horrible, but I mean, this could have been something super neat, like I said, and where they came up with maybe that's why they had to tear the house down was because they would know that anybody going in there would know they were bullshitting, because they said they had to tear the subfloors out and everything because of the blood. And then, that dripping on the foundation wall. I mean, who knows what the hell that was? Could have been chocolate syrup for all we know, but they just tore it down and now nobody can find out,
It's buried somewhere now.
Yeah. With a guard dog there, with the guard dog.
Right.
All I know is the few instances that I've experienced or been around a horrifically bad crime. And I can't even say I've ever been around something like this, but in the penitentiary, trust me, you're around some gruesome attacks. You really, really are. I've never seen reactions like this. I've never seen explanations like this. I mean, hell, even in the penitentiary, when there's blood all over the cell, they close that cell down for days doing an investigation. And if they have to, they keep that cell locked down for the next 6 months until they take that person for whatever hearings or whatever they're going to. It just, and I think of the people like Xana, I think of Ethan, I think of Maddie, and I think of Kaylee, and whether, whatever people in their minds feel as though these kids might have been dabbling in or involved in, this is a horrifically bad crime, horrifically bad. And I get some people still to this day truly don't feel as though, their lives were taken or whatever. I disagree with that. I truly believe this was a horrifically bad crime that took 4 individuals' lives, and it's not being properly brought to people's visions to get the proper justice and to bring those kids the peace that they deserve. Like, I've gotten to the point now, I look at victims' families and I get what they're going through, but at the end of the day, I just kind of wipe that off. I'm like, dude, you guys, I get it, but the way you guys are acting, I don't have the sympathy I probably should anymore. But I still look at these kids and I say, you guys, I don't know. At the end of the day, I think there was still a chance one of them could have been saved. I feel as though if 911 had been called sooner, there has to have been a chance, because we hear muffled crying, we hear whimpering. That means you've been attacked. You're not whimpering or muffled crying because you're sitting there thinking you're going to get attacked 30 minutes from now. You've been attacked, and that's where we hear, I'm here to help you. Whether that be Ethan, and at the end of the day, I'll just lay it out there. I don't think Xana was attacked in the bedroom. I don't think she lost her life in the bedroom. I think she was laying right there in that living room by the half wall that goes down the stairs. I believe she went down thinking she was getting her food, or whoever was at the door, whatever it might have been that got her attention to go, and she walked into devastation, whether that be she was the first one that got attacked or she was the last one. I don't know. But she lost her life in a place where people could see it with the blind eye, without opening doors, because from what I heard, if the audio is correct, It didn't take them coming up those stairs and making a slight turn saying, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. And it's quite clear that would be the first visual of the body right there. And you're not going to see Xana against the back wall of the bedroom from right there. I mean, you could potentially see the blood, but you're not going to see Xana behind the bed against the wall with the blood flowing down the wall, whatever.
Right.
It's devastating. It
Yeah.
really is devastating.
There's a lot of people that think that this whole thing went down outside. I mean, boy, you could go down some rabbit holes with the Linda Lane footage and different cams on different people's houses. I mean, wow, I watched some of that stuff, but it just starts to get to be too much for me at least. But and right now with my eyes, with these cataracts, I can't see very well. So it was when I saw you come up, Lucky, I was like trying to read the name underneath you. I'm like, how the hell did somebody break into the chat? And then I realized what was going on.
I knew it would work, Lucky. I knew it would work. I did not tell Pete. I just kept it between Lucky and and I thought this would be just kind of fun and a good little surprise.
It was fun.
Pete.
Yeah, it was fun. It was great. Definitely love seeing both of you guys. I know we were talking about trying to keep this to around 90 minutes, so we're getting up on that. But I thought we would maybe take time to, anybody got any questions or anything they want to chat about? I'm going to, like I said, with my cataract eyes, I'm going to see if I can grab a chat as they go swinging by. There's a lot of them in here. We were at like, I think over 400 people in here at one time. So that's,
Lucky must have brought his crew on over. The Lucky Meister brought the crew. Now this is our community, guys, and I'm not saying that
absolutely.
It's not for the other creators too, because we have some amazing creators in the chat that I adore, and I fully back 110%. But these people support all three of us, and that's what's so amazing about it is. We literally, and I want people to fully understand this, we don't agree on everything. Lucky's opinion is Lucky's opinion. What his thoughts on the case are his. What Pete feels as though and what he talks about is his. And I separately bring my own to the table. And I think that's what's amazing. Lucky, you said it perfectly last night while we were talking. We bring the respect factor to the discussion, whether we agree or don't, and that's amazing. That's what makes it so much fun.
Yeah, and get along so well naturally. Here's a good question, and I know early on when I met you, Lucky, we talked about this, but that whole fifth person to the hospital report from the scene, and there's this person, I'm not sure if that's where they're going with this, but I know it wasn't in the PCA, but it was in a news broadcast. What was the deal with that? I know you had a video on it.
Yeah, it was in the very beginning. It was in a breaking news broadcast, which I have it, I can always send it to you. But basically, they said that there were 4 victims inside the house, and one person was taken to the hospital. And I've always felt like that was true, because I feel like right now we're starting to hear a lot of the things that we were hearing in the very beginning that we were told wasn't true, and now these things are being confirmed. So it almost makes me think that news story was true as well. Because now all of these things, all of these things they're telling us were false are becoming true. So
I know everybody jumped on the 4chan stuff, and I always thought that 4chan stuff was eerily true. There were some things coming out about David Barakoa's father's ties to a cleaning company and some other things, and there was stuff in there like just not anybody off the street would have known. And yet the 4chan posts, I know they were anonymous. You don't really know,
it was I'm sorry. It was KTVB that put that out, and it was Robin. I can't remember the reporter's name, but her first name was Robin.
Oh, you're
And
talking about the reporter. Okay.
yeah, no, I was just watching the chat, and yeah, it was KTVB, and her name was Robin. I can't remember her last name, but yeah, I mean, I have the video. That's exactly what she said, and I also, she confirmed through messaging that is what she said, and
Yeah.
she said that Moscow PD was trying to hide a lot of this information, because in the very beginning, I don't think anybody thought that it was going to turn into
No,
this.
never.
Never.
And that's interesting too, because yeah, she did one broadcast and then mysteriously it went in the wheelie bin and
Yeah.
Whisked away. And until I heard it from you, I didn't know that existed. And to search for it on the internet, you can't really find it.
Right.
But who was that person? I know me and AR were talking about this, today is, could that person really exist? And could they have been one of the assailants? Could they be able to point the figure to Brian and say, he was with me, we did this job together, kind of thing? I don't think that's going to happen, but certainly it could. It certainly could. And if somebody could present some legitimate evidence against the guy, I would be more likely to think that way. But right now, I don't.
And it was funny too, Lucky, because way back, I mean, it's been a while now, but you and I were kind of doing some behind the scenes video work. We weren't doing lives, we were doing videos. And I remember you bringing that up in regards to the reporter, and we discussed that. And I'm always one that when I hear something like that, it's not that I don't believe what you're saying, but I want to reach out. Like, I want to go find that for myself so I can see if maybe I can ruffle a few feathers and learn something. And I'll tell you what, I reached out, same thing, same individual. And I think even a partner that was working with her, they clearly stated that their initial reports were 5 people, without a doubt, 4 deceased, 1 alive, escorted out via ambulance for medical services. They wouldn't give up whether it was like life-threatening or anything of that nature. I don't think they knew, but it's just crazy because
so it's Robin Nance. That's who it is. It's Robin Nance. I was just looking. I was looking it up. It was Robin Nance from KTVB News, and I believe, and the breaking news came out on November the 13th. So, and I mean, I have the messages where she verifies that this is what she said.
I think I've got that. You sent me a screenshot of it. It's like, yeah, it's legit.
You sent it to me too, and that's what I utilize when I reach out. I'm like, I want to put you on the spot because I do have. And they did verify that that's exactly what they were informed, and they broke the news on the very day the crime was broke. I mean, it was like, we're announcing this in regards to a quadruple homicide here at the University of Idaho, where 4 people lost their lives and 1 was transported with emergency personnel to the hospital. And it was like, and they stand by that. I don't know if they do today. I haven't reached out.
So not only do they stand by it, but they actually took that to the Idaho Supreme Court, because they wanted to. KTVB, along with a bunch of other networks, took this gag order to the Idaho Supreme Court because they wanted to be able to report on what they were learning and on their information, and they were under the gag order. So they actually took that to the Idaho Supreme Court, and I don't even know what happened. I don't know what the result. Well, obviously they weren't allowed to report it, but they wanted to tell their truths, but they were bound by that gag order.
Wow.
What I think is sad is I think that's going to be the end result of the entirety of this case. I think when this dust of this case settles, even though people are now feeling as though here comes the transparency, we're finally starting to see things. Are we? Are we really? We're starting to see what they want us to see. but we're not seeing things like, let's talk about the U-Haul truck that's brought in to remove evidence from the home.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you just loading these so-called mattresses into the beds of trucks that look like they could potentially have bodily fluids on them. None of this stuff is ever going to be discussed with us because it's going to put everything in a negative frame of mind. And that's why I'll tell you right now, if Brian Koberger's found guilty of this crime, the Supreme Court, both Idaho and federal, will be very busy for a very long time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, that U-Haul truck. When have you ever seen the chief of police pull up to an active crime scene and start loading up evidence and putting it in a U-Haul truck?
Ridiculous.
Without a suspect. No suspect in custody. We don't have anybody in custody. We don't have a suspect. And we're going to go in there and start moving stuff out of the house.
Or how about the cleaning with all the tarps and everything covering the front door? They backed that big cleaning truck up like they were going to start dumping everything out of the house. And then that miraculously gets called off and said they can't do that, quit doing it, moving on. And then not long after that, we're seeing more FBI personnel going in to do more work. And it's like, wait, you literally don't think you need this house. You guys have been talking about it for a long time, tearing this down. Now you guys are in there doing more work. What the F are you guys doing?
That's everybody kept saying they don't need it anymore. They don't need the house anymore. And I was like, well, then why do they keep going back? If they don't need it anymore, they keep going back to the house.
Right. There was something there.
There was something there.
I agree. Well, gentlemen, we definitely left them, kept them here. We got just under 400 people, and really want to say thank you to everybody, the people that came out to support what we do. And then, of course, A.R. Hayes and Lucky for coming on to chat with me. And I'm always open to get on any of yours lives as well. I've got my next live set up to do by myself on Sunday at 4 p.m. Central. I will get a thumbnail up and stuff, but just so you know, that's my next one. And I got another couple videos coming out here on the channel as well that I think you guys will like. So, and you guys have plenty of good content coming out as well. Anything you want to mention?
I just wanted to, I've been watching the chat, and I just wanted to say hi to everybody that was saying hi. I wish I could say hello to everybody individually, but I just wanted to say hello and thank you to everybody for all of your support and supporting all three of our channels. And it really means a lot. And so I just wanted to say thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm definitely appreciative of everybody. I don't know content or what I'm going to be working on. I mean, obviously I'm going to be fly by night trying to figure out what I'm doing, but I'm actually going to go live myself again after this in probably 40 minutes, as I've got a few things that I want to jump in and talk about on the Idaho 4 case myself. Lucky, you're more than welcome to join me if you like. Pete, I know you need your rest, but we're definitely going to do this again. And I'm excited to see Pete back. I'm excited to see Lucky just spreading his wings and growing. Lucky's going to be, Pete, he's going to be opening up that door for memberships here very soon and doing members lives and just so many really cool things going on. And
yeah, good to hear.
One day I hope you guys could teach me how to be more successful.
You're doing just fine, buddy.
That's for
sure. All right, guys.
Well,
We'll see you next time. We're going to do this again, I'm sure. And you guys have a good evening. We'll see you again.
Awesome. Have a great
night.
That was great, guys.